Evening. My name is Kurt Freskowski. I'm chairman of the Financial Committee of the Town of Ayer, and we're going to be calling this meeting to order. Please bear with me as this is my second time doing this. I don't believe we need to read anything because we're not doing this on a Zoom.
Right, correct. So what you'd want to start when you call the meeting to order, just make sure you say the name of the committee, the date and time.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
correct. And I'm going to go, very good. So this is the Finance Committee meeting of the Town of Ayer on Wednesday, December 14th at 5:30 p.m. in the meeting room of the town, first floor meeting room. It's an in-person open session, and we do have one of the members calling in. What I'd like to do is go around and just mention the board members that are here and have them introduce themselves real quickly. Again, my name is Kurt Freskowski. I'm the chairman of the committee, and to my right is
Sebastian Cordoba, and I'm the vice chair of the Finance Committee.
and then we have,
Andrew Seeley, I'm the clerk of the Financial Committee.
very good, and then calling in remote, we have Jin Hong.
Yes, Jean Hong.
Jin Hong, correct, who is the member of the committee also.
Member at large? I don't know, what do we say? What do we
Just
call it?
member.
Just member,
Yes.
yes.
Well, not just, but.
Yeah.
Okay. We had our last meeting was scheduled for Thursday, October 13th, but unfortunately we did not have a quorum, a sufficient number of members attending, so the meeting was canceled at 5:45 p.m. So we are now in our meeting tonight on the 14th.
There are no minutes to approve.
Correct.
That's what we're trying to say.
Yes. So there are no minutes from that meeting to review and approve. So for tonight's meeting, what we are going to do is we've got Carly Antonellis from the town manager's office has very graciously joined us and is going to give us an overview of the town budget and a couple other things that we need to know as a committee to do our job. And then we will also be looking at, after she's done, we'll have a little better handle on what we need to do. And then we will look at the committee members attending various town meetings, other committee meetings, and then scheduling our future meeting. So, Carla, would you
Sure.
like to go ahead?
Thank you.
Is there public input first?
I believe we would do that at the end.
You can, whenever you want to do it, we just need to include it on the agenda for next time, but we can do it now.
Okay.
Would you do it now? That would be great.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, we're learning as we go along.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
You want to go first? Or no? All right, so, and I know
Do you
Carly.
need to move
Wait.
closer to the phone?
No, I think that.
Yeah, why don't you come up
Yeah.
and just state your name and your address for the
Just
record,
gonna say
please.
Is Jim still?
yes, she's calling in.
It's like 6:30.
My name is Dennis Curran, Pleasant Street in Ayer. So,
Yes, sir.
I know that Carly has heard this, as, being at select board meetings, and I just wanted to bring to the board's attention, because I know you have some new members, my ongoing concern regarding the fire department budget, staffing levels, and the continuing expansion of that in the long term, what I view as deleterious effects that may well have on the overall town budget. First, let me point out, and I believe this to be true, that in enterprise funds, that state law under the creation of enterprise funds, they cannot be used for public safety purposes. That is, you cannot create a police enterprise fund. nor can you create a fire enterprise fund. But you can create an ambulance enterprise fund, which is what Ayer has done. I think it would be informative and more accurate for the public if, when you are discussing the public safety budget, that those three buckets be kept separate, distinct. This is the money for the fire, this is the money for the ambulance enterprise, this is the money for the police. All three being wrapped into the public safety budget, I think, does not properly reflect, how that money comes and goes, and is not in keeping with the notion that public safety and enterprise funds are not supposed to be handled together.
Can I just ask a
Yeah.
quick question, just to clarify? So when we do the omnibus budget, it's broken out by department. So are you saying the warrant budget that lumps them together? Because we lump together human services, public safety.
Yeah, that is, I have seen some warrant articles that are in the warrant that under public safety, it will just give you one number or perhaps two numbers.
Okay.
But the enterprise fund, and I suspect that Robert knows this, that the public safety budget should not include the ambulance enterprise fund.
It doesn't. It's a separate fund.
No, I know that, but for the purposes of the pie charts that you might distribute to the public,
Okay.
it would be more informative, I think, to have those separated out so that when people are looking at it, they can distinguish.
Okay, and my understanding is they are in the budget book. It's all broken out. Enterprise funds are totally separate from the
All right.
omnibus.
That's not what I have seen on the floor at town meeting.
Okay. Well, we'll look in the budget
Okay.
book.
I
And
will.
we'll, yeah.
And again, this is for, in order to assist the public, and
Sure.
because by the time you get to town meeting, on the floor at town meeting, it is somewhere between difficult and impossible to have a detailed discussion about the whys and the wherefores of particular dollar amounts for particular departments. I mean,
Right.
it is safe to say pretty much baked into the cake. So prior to that time, the public needs to kind of have a firmer understanding of how much money is being spent on what and where it's going and how it's divided up. So that's kind of like an overview of what I think ought to be. In terms of the ambulance enterprise fund, it was, I think, established 10 or 12 years ago, well-meaning, in an effort to kind of add clarity to the town budget, that the ambulance enterprise fund would be a distinct entity which would kind of, the idea being it would become self-sufficient, because that's the purpose of enterprise funds. They are designed to become sort of, the accounting is like a private enterprise. You have your income and you have your expenses, and at the end of the day, hopefully they're gonna, kind of even out, and they're not gonna require additional funding out of general revenue. And for the first 4 or 5 years, it seemed like that was in fact the case. But since 2019, the Ambulance Enterprise Fund has sought, in 2019, they requested $67,000. In 2020, they requested $80,000. 2021, they requested $209,000. 2022, they requested $63,000, which is obviously headed in the wrong direction from the purpose for which the enterprise fund was initially established. Again, I think it deserves a heightened level of scrutiny to find out why is that the case, the steps that can be taken to prevent that, mitigate that, in order to bring that into balance, which was the initial intent of the enterprise fund.
Okay.
And that kind of leads me to another point, which is the provision of mutual aid. And the numbers that I'm going to kind of give you in broad strokes are numbers that I have received from the fire department. Robert is aware of them, Carly is aware of them. So I'm not, these are not fictional numbers.
So let me interject real quick. When you mentioned provision of mutual aid, is this the referring to when we provide services to other communities?
That's right. When they,
And
there's
possible reimbursements and what have you.
That's right. So,
Again, in broad detail.
yeah, so mutual aid, the fire departments and surrounding communities kind of by tacit agreement, and I think legally.
Yeah, so yeah, we're,
kind
yeah,
of-
you know, so we're on the same page
Yeah.
with that. So you're
So,
saying,
so of all the calls that Ayer responds to
mhm,
over the course of a year, let's say, and the number is, you know, I want to say 1,800 or somewhere.
yeah, I remember this
Yeah,
was
yeah.
discussed at the town meeting
Yeah.
and
Fully a third of the calls are outside the town of Ayer.
mhm,
And I asked for the number about how many incoming mutual aid calls the town receives. And that number seems hard to get. I suspect, in terms of incoming ambulance calls, I suspect the number approaches 0. Or else we wouldn't have sufficient to be able to provide, you know, something on the order of 400 calls, 500 calls a year, I think,
Mhm.
out.
right.
All right. So the town of Ayer is providing a significant amount of mutual aid going out, right,
Mhm,
and receiving far less. All right. Not an equitable situation if we take the word mutual,
mhm,
you know, to mean as it was intended. So why would that situation need to continue? All right. Again,
It's a
You know,
state law, Dennis.
no,
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but.
I
No,
understand.
I can address it then.
No, I
Carl.
understand.
So no, this is very
Yeah.
interesting thing,
Yes.
because I did hear it at the meeting,
Yeah.
the
I
town hall
understand it's
meeting.
a state law.
And what I'm hearing, and these are all, I've made some quick notes, is that these are really good things for us. And I'm really welcoming these points for us to be looking at
Yeah.
and on detail. So I've gotten 4 so far right now, the 4th one being provisional mutual aid. And I hear you on that because that caught my ear also. So is there any other items you wanted to add for us to look at?
Yep. That the staffing ratios for the town of Ayer, now remember, the town of Ayer has a population of right around 8,000.
And this was the staffing with the fire and
Fire.
police.
No, fire.
Fire,
Just
right.
fire.
Yeah, so that goes back to your first observation about the fire department budget and
That's right.
growth and
That's
staffing.
right. So the town of Ayer has a population of right around 8,000 people. Right now, they have 19 now. They have 15 full-time firefighters, and then there was a provision from last town meeting that they have acquired 4 through a federal grant, which when it expires, they are seeking to have the town pick up the salaries on the
Mhm.
expired grant, which would then bring the total cost to the town for 19 full-time firefighters.
Yeah, so now again, I remember this particular item.
To put that into
covered in
perspective,
Meeting, town hall.
to put that into perspective, the town of Groton, for whom we provide mutual aid to, has 8, maybe 9 full-time firefighters. So we have twice as many,
Correct.
right? The town of Groton has 12,000 people in it. The town of Groton can presumably keep 12,000 people safe, 50% more people safe, with 50% less firefighters. Why does that exist?
Yeah.
The town of Devens, I think, has 6, maybe 7 full-time firefighters. The town of Harvard, I know, and Harvard is probably.
Yeah, I remember all of
A
these
special
numbers
case.
were brought up
One
at
or
the
two.
meeting and things. So again, so what I'm hearing now is then a 5th thing adding to the list is looking at the fire staffing, balancing population versus actual staff.
Right, so.
In Ayer and surrounding communities.
Right,
So,
and so I went through, and a lot of these numbers come from looking at the annual town reports from some of the other towns in
Mhm.
Massachusetts. And there are about 36 towns in Massachusetts with populations under 10,000, I think I looked at. 36 towns. I don't think there are any, right, that have 19 full-time firefighters. I think the vast majority of them have significantly under 15. And I think that you may find that a kind of number where a lot of the things land in terms of population and ratio is in the order of 12 or 13. in terms of full-time firefighters for towns of that size. I think that needs to be looked at in detail.
Yeah, I
And-
definitely. Again, it's very interesting. I hear all of these points. Again, were brought up in town hall, and actually have been sticking in my mind. And it's nice that you're itemizing them for me, and us, not me,
So,
but for the finance committee. So, this is good.
I think that this needs to be looked at in significant, and I think that the way to do that is, it is going to be difficult on the floor. That is, I understand a department head, any department head, wanting to increase their budget and maximize their employment. I mean, it would only be natural that a department head would seek to have more employees working under them and have a larger budget. I mean, that
Yeah,
kind
and
of
these
makes
are
sense.
good. And Dennis, this is good detail.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to balance it with the time limits of our meeting,
Okay.
and also the way I've again, bear with me as this is my first time doing this.
No, sure.
Is that these are the things, one of the things I was looking for is what are things that the finance committee, and I think the members will agree, is what are these things that we can look at? And this is invaluable, what you're providing to us. And so we've got the major topics here, and then which you're proceeding to go down to is the details, which we do want to, we'll get into. But I think in the interest of
Okay.
time, maybe not tonight,
Sure.
we'll get down into the details.
Okay.
But then, and one thing we're going to learn is what's the best way for us to work with folks on getting details and keeping communications back and forth.
Sure. So let me say, and again, I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I think that the town would benefit because I know that you are and God knows I appreciate your service, and I know the kind of time that sitting on a board like this can take. I think it would be prudent for the town to hire a third party to look at the fire department budget, a third party which would have expertise not only in the kind of financial analysis, but also be able to attest to how do other towns do it who seemingly are able to do it with less staff for equivalent sized towns.
Okay.
And how do they maintain a safe level, a safe community, while also having fewer staff and having those. So, and I don't, and that level of analysis I think would be difficult for you folks to achieve on your own, just because it's going to require being able to understand firefighting procedures, scheduling, how mutual aid is handled,
Right.
how on-call firefighting can be handled, and so all those pieces need to fit together
Mm-hmm.
in the economic interests of the town while simultaneously keeping the town safe. So I think that it would be a prudent step, given the size of the total budget overall, to kind of look at that from a third-party perspective, get their analysis and expertise, and then be able to make a better informed judgment. So just let me say that I'd be happy to talk to each of you individually about my thoughts on this. You know, obviously these numbers are public, and but if anybody has any questions that they think I might be able to help answer, or information that I might have available, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay, well, I'm just going to real quick just to put a bow on it, so to speak. You mentioned the fire department budget and growth, the enterprise funds and reporting on those. Also looking at the enterprise, particularly with the ambulance and the numbers over the years, provision of mutual aid, staffing and fire. And what I thought was interesting with your 6th point was the third party review, which sort of goes and is a way of possibly something for us to consider, think about, is looking at all the previous 5 things you just brought up. So good. All right, well, good. Thank you for the input.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we'll go from
And
there.
again, I don't know if there are any fire warrant articles. Obviously, the warrant is completed, but I kind of wanted to get in this early because, again, by the time we get to the floor of town meeting, any kind of informed discussion becomes difficult, if not impossible.
Excellent. Great. Thank you very much, Dennis. Okay, so
Share the
And
information.
Mr. Chair, if I could
Yes.
just quickly, I think my presentation will help answer questions for you as far as
Yes.
the appropriate time to solicit feedback from the different departments.
Mhm.
And we have public budget forums every year too. We get maybe 3 people attending, so we're more than willing to obviously meet and share the
Yeah.
information.
Awesome, thank you.
Good, thanks, Carla. Yeah, and again, I just think this is good points for
Yep.
us to be aware of.
And then work on you.
All right. Carolyn, another,
Yes.
Thank
would like to
I'm
join us?
Carolyn McCreary, 6 Wachusett Avenue East. I want to second what Dennis has to say. You know, I understand his concerns, and you know, it leads to the expenditures here obviously lead to a case where we spend less in other departments. You know, I am constantly concerned about our school department because apparently we have salaries, teacher salaries are like the lowest in the area. So I just, you know, I want to say that, you know, we need a balance in town, and we feel like, or he feels, and I feel that the fire department is way overfunded. Also, I was on the Board of Selectmen when we talked about creating an enterprise pocket, whatever, for the ambulance. And the idea then was that we needed an enterprise fund because that was a place where we could keep money so that excess money would be in there for the next year. Well, you know, from what Dennis has said, that the opposite is true. You know, we have to put money into the enterprise fund. We were sold, or we were told at the time that the enterprise fund was created, was that it was a good place so that funds would remain there for year after year to fund the ambulance. Also, you might want to look into the over-budgeted police department as well. During COVID, I looked on the internet for police budgets in various towns. And, you know, these in towns included Ayer, Clinton, Littleton, Harvard, Groton, Pepperell, Shirley, Lunenburg, Boxborough, Chelmsford, and Westford. And I'm not going to give you the spreadsheet because, you know, this was my personal view of the town meeting notes from these towns. But the bottom line is that the cost per resident in Ayer is $415 a year. The cost on the average of the other towns was $218. So just as in the fire department, our police department seems to be overfunded. Now, you know, I was a selectman, so, you know, at the time I oversaw these sorts of things, and I think there's some historical perspective here that, you know, we used to be the town for Devons, for the Army, and I think as a result we probably needed a larger police department and maybe a larger fire department. But, you know, the town has changed considerably since then. So, you know, if you're looking at a third party for looking at the fire, you might want to have them look at the police as well.
Great, this is good. Thank you very much, Carolyn. Susan. And
Wait, 1 sec.
Okay.
I need to catch up.
Okay. Hello, Jen. How are things in China?
Oh, they're fun. Well, actually, I guess I have a ton of work to do.
What time is it there?
we'll discuss that.
It's 13 hours ahead of you. So it's
Morning.
like 7 o'clock in the morning.
Hey, that thing works.
Just give me a heads up, Andrew, when you're ready.
Wait, yeah, I'm good now.
Okay.
We
Okay.
can always refer to the tape we're being recorded too. So if
Okay.
you need to catch up on your notes.
We're good.
All right, Susan Tordella, 5 Hedgeway. So thank you all for being on the FinCom. and doing this public service. I know it is a lot. So I just want to echo I want to support both of what Carolyn and Dennis said about police and fire. I was a little shocked at town meeting when they added a deputy chief, and the argument at town meeting was, oh, we need him to cover meetings when the chief can't. Or maybe we need them to cover mutual aid. So I lived in Westford before we came here, and Westford did not have the benefit of industry, of a low tax rate like we do here because of the support. 50% of our tax base is industry. So I think sometimes we have a little fat built into the budget. And the police have time to do Toys for Tots. They have time to do social work, and they're not hired to be social workers. So I encourage you, maybe the same consultant could look at both the police and fire department budget. And especially the fire. Don't add 4 more people. Holy cow. That just seems
We
like
already did.
overkill.
A year ago.
But I thought that was through a grant.
It is.
Yeah, so it's only for 3 years. It's not coming out of our pockets, correct?
Well, it's federal tax money, so yeah.
Indirectly.
Yeah, indirectly.
So that's my 2 cents. Thank you for putting us first in the agenda. And
No, this has worked out well because thank you, Susan.
okay,
Thank you.
all right.
And again, I just thank you to all because
Now we have something to work on.
yeah, it's good to have information.
And I
That's what
think we need to come back to the budget hearings before town meetings. Like Dennis said, things are kind of moving fast at town.
Happy to help.
What'd you say? The cake is already baked.
Very
Good
good.
analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other input from the citizens? Okay, then if we could, we'll move on to Carly, if you'd like to
Sure.
go through your
Yeah, so,
information.
yep, what we talked about, you just want to talk about what we talked about today. correct?
Yes, because I think that was invaluable in understanding how the budget process works.
Right, so what we're gonna do is just, go to the town website.
What are we gonna
So-
call this section
What do you mean?
on the agenda? It says, right?
You
So
can just
this
say
is
town
a committee
manager.
discussion.
Committee discussion, sure.
Okay, it's just
So
not on the
we've-
agenda.
It is.
Is it?
It's the third item on the
Oh,
agenda,
committee
so
discussion.
Yeah.
I
we flip-flop
apologize.
that.
We just didn't cover future meetings.
So, a couple things, and I would be, I know we're gonna go over, I just, you know what, we'll do this first. And so, anything for the budget, there's 2 places you can look. So departments, you go to town manager, there's a link right at the top, FY24 budget. So, we're gonna go over this budget calendar. So if you're at the homepage and we have short URLs for everything, so /budget, it'll bring you to the same page.
That's what I mean.
So this is where we're at. Capital planning requests have been submitted by all departments. That usually takes place in October, November timeframe. The other, so those are being worked on now. The capital planning committee does need a member from the finance committee. They may be wrapping up. They have a meeting tomorrow at 5 here in person. And then they'll have one more meeting and then they're done for the year. It's really like a time compressed committee to get us. It's really the first step in the budget process, but we'll go over the budget calendar. So fiscal year 24 goes from July 1st of 23 to June 30th of 24.
And Carly, I'll just
Yeah.
interject. For Sebastian and Andrew, we do have a copy of the calendar. Again, it's on the website. And Jim will be getting this information for you also.
Yeah, and all of this is on the website
Yes.
as well. Or that should be up there. Oh, I gotta get it up there. I will. So
Budget
budget calendar. So here we are as far as, and the budget for July 1st budget, we approved that at a town meeting in April. The budget for July through the following June. We start really getting ready in September for an April meeting. So we're always kind of working in 6-month blocks for the annual budget. So August, we do have a special town meeting every October. Typically, we don't do financial articles in the fall. We have, it's not excluded, you can do it, but mostly we try to hold those for the annual town meeting, so everything's being voted kind of together. Again, you can do financial articles in the fall, we just tend not to. So we get through the fall. I don't know if any of you attended the special town meeting that was at the end of October.
Sure did.
So that was at 7.
Very short.
It was short. There's only
It was
4
quick,
articles. Yeah. So basically, preparation for that starts in August. You know, the select board will open the warrant meeting if anyone wants to submit an article, meaning departments or citizens are able to submit their own petitions. They can submit them, and there's a deadline. So the deadline is September 30th. That gives us, you know, a week or two for the select board to review it, and then we have to send it to the printer, and they mail a warrant to every household in Ayer. So you have an idea of the voting when it happens, because the last thing we want to hear is, well, no one told me there was a meeting. So we mail it right to your house.
So this is sort of a little microcosm of, example of what happened last
Right.
April when we did the main town hall. Remember?
Yeah, exactly.
got it.
So you'll see that again in this schedule. So basically, mid-October, the town manager sends out the budget directive for capital. So each department has a 5-year capital plan that they review annually with the capital planning committee. You know, that's items over, really it's anything over $10,000. But really it's your fire trucks, your police cruisers, facilities often has roof repairs, HVAC repairs. That will all go through the capital 90% of the time. So capital requests were due at the end of October. They're all here now from each department. So you'll see facilities, here's their 5-year plan, and it lays out what their needs are. So facilities does for all the buildings. And then there's backup for each item. Cost estimates, etc. So there's where we're at there. We have one union contract to negotiate this winter, which is the town hall clerical staff. We'll be starting that anytime now. November 1st is definitely ambitious, but they had to meet with their union representation before we could all sit down together. So that typically consists of me, Robert, and one other staff member, probably our payroll and benefits manager, negotiating the contract with clerical staff. It covers mostly this building and a few off-site positions. One of the staff at the DPW is in this union.
How many people is that about?
20 maybe, somewhere in that ballpark. So our first major public hearing of the budget cycle is the rate review committee, which is charged with looking at transfer station rates, water and sewer enterprise rates. So the transfer station and the water and sewer department are all enterprise funds. The town has 4 enterprise funds, and it's for the water department, the sewer department, the transfer station, and the ambulance. So just kind of to piggyback, on what Mr. Curran had brought up, we have 2 enterprise funds that operate in the black. That's the water and sewer, meaning they're self-sustaining. For the most part, money gets turned over. We pay a lot of expenses out, but we get revenue obviously in from the rates. That sustains those 2 models. Transfer station rate or enterprise has never been self-sufficient. That gets between $180,000 and $220,000 a year from the general fund. So if you don't use the transfer station, money, a taxpayer that doesn't use the transfer station has helped subsidizing it. That's been since it's open because, there's a lot of mitigating factors. They don't want to raise the sticker rates too high, and then, there was all the recycling. Recycling wasn't being taken anymore, and the cost went way up. So it's really a cost game. So transfer station is always subsidized. And then I just want to briefly touch on the ambulance rates. The issue we've been seeing in the past 5 years with the ambulance rates is 75% or so, I think is the number, of our users of ambulance are Medicare patients or Medicaid patients. So they set their own rate for reimbursement. So say the town of Ayer charges $500 an ambulance ride, that's just a figure. Medicaid or Medicare will pay back what they want, meaning a portion of it. If it was a private pay insurance, we get a higher rate. So that's where we have such a high using population of Medicare, Medicaid patients. That's why our rates have gone down and why we've needed subsidies in those accounts. So anyway, the fire department, they just came before the select board last week and they raised those rates for our ambulance because of that very issue. So the select board will do a public hearing on the transfer station rates in November because the transfer station rates are different where they go a calendar year. The stickers are for sale now. The other rates for the water and sewer will be on the fiscal year. It's kind of confusing. But then we do the tax classification hearing in November, which is the last step in the 23 budget. So basically the Board of Assessors take a look at, what was spent at previous town meetings. They look at the shift. We have a split tax rate in Ayer. They look at who's paying more of a burden, the residents or the businesses. We make pretty conservative adjustments accordingly. Like this year, our tax rate actually went down because value went so high. So we've done that already. You'll see a little check mark. December, on Friday, December 2nd, Robert sent the FY24 budget directive out, which you have a copy of. And that's that, yep.
This is the first.
Oh, he sent it the first. He was a day early. Can you believe it? Yeah. So they're due December 30th from departments. So what will happen is they'll email all their requests in to us and the finance manager. We'll put together, the finance team will take 2 or 3 weeks to compile one omnibus budget. As soon as it's ready, it goes to the select board, it goes to the FinCom. Then we have some non-union negotiations that need to take place. The deputy fire chief, the fire chief, and the town clerk, all their personal service contracts are up. We'll do that with the town manager, myself, typically do those. We do 2 budget forums a year. We've heard a lot of feedback that there's not a lot of participation in town and people want to know earlier in the process. We've been doing this for the past couple of years. So we're definitely having one I'm sorry, I jumped ahead, but so by January 13th, you guys will get the budget, the first draft. And that's really just a first draft. There'll be several iterations to it as we go through the process. And as we fine tune the budget, it always gets updated on this page. As soon as you guys get it, it goes on the website. So then at the select board is not meeting January 3rd, but they're gonna meet the 17th and they'll open the town meeting warrant for April. So again, that's when citizens and departments can submit their warrant articles for consideration. Then they'll call the annual town election, which is in May. January 25th, we'll do a joint meeting with the FinCom and the select board. It's typically been joint. You guys have had quorum problems, so that's why it's been just the select board in the past year or so. So we'll do it in this room on January 25th. So that's really an outline, like an overview of the budget. This is what's been submitted. This is what the growth looks like. Anything that's a one-time expense is highlighted in our budget. So say the town clerk's office needs furniture. It will say, so instead of asking for $12,000 for furniture, I mean, they could, but it's broken out. So that doesn't get automatically baked in the next year. That gets taken out. We call it like a one-time expense. Because there was some concern, I guess, back years ago that if you needed something, that money would just follow year to year. We don't do that. We haven't done that since I started here in 2014. So in long before that, I'm sure, since Robert got here. So we'll give an overview of the budget, questions from, take public input. All the department heads are here to answer questions. And typically what we would see before the FinCom had the quorum issues, they would convene either every other week or once a month in January and February to meet with departments, especially the bigger departments, Public Works, Police, and Fire, to go over their budget requests, ask questions, And, you know, we would encourage you obviously to start doing that again. That hasn't happened in a couple of years. So that's usually what the FinCom is responsible for, meaning January, February is what we see them meeting, going over budgets, answering questions. You know, it's obviously open meeting, so.
So, just thinking out loud again,
Sure.
this will be feed. This is good. This is very good that you went ahead first, because
Yeah.
this feeds right into what.
Yeah.
So I'm just talking in general, Will, as we're looking at maybe a meeting before the 13th, just to sort of set ourselves up, and then not set ourselves up, but to start get organized, and then after the 13th also then to start digesting, or maybe after the 17th start digesting this information.
So I'll give you a pro tip. I wouldn't hold a meeting on a Friday. The 13th of January, just saying. You could, but we don't see that too often, but you're certainly welcome.
No. I'm saying I'm looking in between the 9th and the 13th.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, so
That was-
basically, everyone will be emailed, or we'll email it to you, Kurt, and you can email it to the rest of the committee on a Friday, the budget. Then I would definitely probably suggest meeting that next week to start going through it and deciding what maybe committees or what departments you want to meet with.
Mhm. But I'm just thinking, if the Friday, the meeting, the budget comes out on the Friday, there's a select on the Tuesday,
Yeah.
then I think we should be maybe later that week.
Yeah, because the select board will go through it at that initial meeting as well. And then again, the public forum, we take questions that night. We encourage people to write questions in ahead of time so we can answer everyone's question.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, and then February,
So that sort of answers my when our earlier tonight was, how do we get input?
yeah.
There we go. Good. Cheers.
So then what we'll do, February, we're just, you know, a lot of things come in February. We get the health insurance number, what our health insurance is going to cost. We get the school assessments from the regional school district will send us what they're looking for their budget figures. Then Neshoba Valley Tech will send us their figures. We pay assessments to both regional school districts. That usually comes in February, and that obviously we call that the puzzle building stage of the budget. Some of the bigger items, that's going to help determine what we're able to spend. Trying to think what else big comes in. Health insurance and the school assessments are big. February, we should get that. So as we get those numbers, the budget gets updated. We put it back out on the website with all the updated numbers in it. March, we say February, March is the school assessments. We'll do a second public budget forum, and that's usually more the nitty-gritty fine detail, where people have specific questions, and they've had the material now for a few months they can go over. Certainly, though, if you had questions at any time, any of our department heads would meet with anyone, and if you wanted really granular detail, we can provide that, obviously. So then the second meeting in March for the select board, we'll do the public hearing for the water and sewer rates. So we have that rate review committee, which also needs a representative from the FinCom. We have a water and sewer rate model that our finance director kind of plug in. Hey, this is where we're at. We have this much in retained earnings. Next year, we set the rates, and we really work hard to limit the increases. And they've been really minimal, I would say, the past 3 or 4 years. In my town where I live, they just went up 12% each. But we're not even close to that here. So then the warrant will close at the end of March. We put the whole warrant together, is ongoing through this process. The select board, and we'll have the FinCom at this meeting on April 4th. It's a joint meeting, and we'll go through the budget line by line, and then we go through the warrant, and if anyone has questions, then we'll ask how everyone's voting, meaning there's a section on the warrant, we'll say FinCom opposes, FinCom supports. Same thing with the selectmen, that goes all there too. The CPC, the Community Preservation, they submit articles every year for the warrant. It will say how they voted on it, just so when you're at town meeting looking through it, you'll have an idea. A portion of the economic development budget comes through the IDFA, or the IDFA budget, which is the Industrial Development Finance, comes from the UDAG fund. The town has a pot of money, UDAG, Urban Development Action Grant, Unrestricted Development Action Grant, something to that effect. But basically, it's an unrestricted fund that the select board control. And when we made economic development full-time, I believe, they committed a portion of that funding for his operating budget. So we usually do that in April, sometimes later. Then by April 7th, we post everything everywhere. We have to post in all 3 precincts. Literally, like our facilities director or Robert goes out with thumbtacks and posts them at the board at Pauline's or at the police station. The warrants, they get posted online that day. Then it takes about 10 days to get them out in the mail. And then the annual town meeting is Monday, April 24th, and election is May 9th. So that's the overview of the budget calendar, and we'll be updating it as, you know, we can check boxes off. It will go back right here to this budget calendar page. Once we have all the budget submissions from the departments, we'll compile it into one budget. You'll see the first draft. That'll be here as well. So anything relating to town meeting or the budget will get populated here as we go through. Then we put together a budget book every year, which is more detail. It breaks down the enterprise funds step by step. I wish I could pull up an old one, but I think they get taken down as the budgets get updated.
Fred had given me a kind of the copy of the omnibus
Yeah.
budget. So this is, so you're referring detailed, the omnibus would be this is a overall summary of the budget.
Yep, that, right. Yep. So, and then I want to just show you one more thing on this website that I think will be helpful. So every month our departments submit department head reports, and our accounting office will do like a year-to-date expenditure of all the accounts of the on the omnibus budget only. I mean, if we did every account, enterprise, whatever, it would be 700 pages long. So if you go to departments again, go to town manager, and then you'll see here department head reports. So if you go to accounting, so this is the books as of the general fund as of November 30th. So we'll scroll down, benefits and payroll, like we've expended 34% of it by now. So it just wages, services, supplies, expenses. And it breaks down, there's a reserve fund, which we'll get to in just a second.
So this is the budget in action?
This is it, yeah, live in time. So they update it every month for everyone. The finance committee, you have a small budget with $316 left in it. Don't spend it all in one spot.
What do we spend money on?
I would have to look. It wasn't in the last month, or it would be there. So everything's here and broken down as we get into public safety. So basically, it's lumped into 5 major categories, like town hall administration, public safety, schools, human services. Facilities budget is, we've actually consolidated some budget numbers too. We had way too many. And while Mr. Ponte was here, that was one of his goals, is consolidate some of the numbers, which we did. And it's a bottom line budget. I was explaining to Kurt. So here's our general insurance line. So workers' compensation, which we obviously have to have for our employees, but workers' comp for fire and police is different, mandated by state law. They have a different account, and then basically just general building insurance and all the insurance for our vehicles. So you'll notice this fire and police is over by $8,000, but it's a bottom line budget. So we still have $10,000 left in the insurance accounts. So if I had to pay another bill from here, I could take it. As long as this number stays above 0, we're good.
So that would be something to ask the chief, right? Who got hurt? Why?
Well, that would be me. This is one of my budgets that I manage.
Okay.
Yeah, so it depends on the premiums. We always budget about 10%, but they're never ready to give us our premium until May for July, but we have to budget it in February. So we have to take our best guess.
Is that just insurance, or does that change when more people get hurt? Is that just the rates?
Depends, there's built-in, for a certain number, but if we have a lot of claims, then certainly our premium will go up the next year. So anyway, so this is the budget in real time. So say we'll use the insurance budget as a example. So every year the town has to do a workers' comp audit of our last year's coverage. And if we paid too little, which again, we're paying estimates, then they'll do an actual assessment and say, oh, well, you're $8,000 underfunded. Depending, if we add salary, if people are out, whatever's going on, every place gets audited. And say we get an $8,000 audit bill and I only have $4,000 left in the account. This is where you guys come in. So we would need a reserve fund transfer. So the reserve fund traditionally is at $300,000 a year. It's under the finance committee. All departments, if you need a reserve fund transfer, you need a 2-step approval process. So you go first to the select board and ask them, they approve it, then they come to the finance committee for a second approval. And we submit a form and all the backup information. Those typically, you'll see more of those towards April, May, June, towards the end of the budget cycle. And
That's just if you violate the bottom line budget number.
Sometimes it's different.
Well,
if
if
we
you
have a-
violate the bottom line budget number, you have to ask.
Yeah, you can't run it in the negative.
Right, but that's if like the HVAC breaks, they can be
Right. So if say, for example, the town hall boiler, which is pretty new, breaks tomorrow, and they come in and say it's going to be $65,000 to repair it. Now that's just a hypothetical because it's insured and bonded, whatever. So Chuck, knowing that $65,000 is going to be a huge hit to his budget, we would say we need to get the reserve fund transferred now. We don't want to operate like that. If it's a couple $100, sometimes the other lines in the budget can absorb it. So those are the ones we kind of wait till the end of the year. But if it's a huge unforeseen expense, we certainly would go to the RFT first, for sure. And again, that's typically select board first, and then it comes to the finance committee. And then we would just make the transfer in the budget once that was approved.
And that work when there was no FinCom.
We didn't overspend. You can't do it without the FinCom approval, so
Is it a bylaw?
it's a state law.
State law?
Yeah, so luckily, and that term free cash, we turn in money every year, meaning we don't spend what we appropriate, so that goes to free cash at the end of the year. So we've been lucky, but we're glad we have a reconstituted finance committee, because if things come up, and they do, we would need some coverage. So that's where we're at. I think we covered most of what we talked about, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I think it's good.
So and just as far as your scheduling, I mean, with different departments, I would certainly take advantage of January and February.
That week after the first draft is
Yep.
made after the 13th,
Yep.
I think.
So that's just, but I'm here to answer any other questions. The website is always updated. I encourage you to look, and then you can look to just say fire department, because we've been talking about, oh, that was Chuck, sorry. If all their run statistics, everything we keep here, just for like a quick month glance, we have annual reports every year, but it's just to keep up on stuff. The police department, I know, does like a more detailed breakdown of their calls. They also have all their call logs on the website as well.
That's a lot of calls.
Yeah, they get a lot.
Do they have
both
the
departments.
July 4th call when they came to look at the injured swan in our backyard?
Oh, maybe it would be on the call log for sure. So that's that, and it basically when the select board approves this budget calendar in October, if anyone wanted to change a date to it, it has to go back before the select board to get approved. So we can't just willy-nilly. I mean, you'll see in the budget directive, if people don't submit it on time, they'll get a level funded budget from last year. I mean, except for contractual wages, of course, we can't do that, but, you know, all the departments are really good at sticking with the schedule, and they actually like to see it laid out a year ahead of time so they know when their stuff is due, so.
Well,
I don't have any questions. Andrew, Sebastian?
no, that was informative. Thank you.
Just like total broad brush strokes, but if you guys ever have any more detailed questions, we're here.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very, very, very.
You're welcome.
I have a question. It's totally unrelated to everything we talked about. Now that the town accountant is a dual accountee, is he also the treasurer?
So it's the finance manager was always the town accountant, always had a dual role.
Okay.
Meaning, so it was finance manager / town accountant. In municipalities, it's either your finance manager is either your accountant or your treasurer tax collector.
Okay.
So we actually had, I want to say about, when Fred left, we appointed Barbara as the finance manager. We had about a $60,000 savings in doing that. And then promoting the
Good salary.
Yeah. And promoting the
That was my question.
yeah, promoting the assistant accountant to the town accountant. You know, we had quite a savings in doing that. It certainly wasn't what we expected to do mid-budget season, but
But that helps.
we had, right, we didn't have, he left to pursue other opportunities, so you gotta do what you gotta do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was going to, let me go back to my agenda here, is, well, yeah, let's touch real quickly. I had, the next item was scheduling of town boards that we need to be attending. So there are 3 in particular, and we should technically have one of us actually assigned as the finance committee representative at that meeting. So the 3 meetings are, and I did mention in the email setting up this meeting to our group that I have attended some on an ad hoc basis. But right now those are the capital planning committee, the buy board committee, and then the rate review committee.
What are the dates?
So the next meeting is, the capital meeting is tomorrow at 12:15. I have that penciled in for me to attend.
I see.
Pardon?
I said that's awesome. That's good.
Okay.
I can't make that one. So
Yeah,
that's awesome.
no. And there was a buy board and rate review meetings yesterday, which were canceled unfortunately because of Robert's
Yeah, it's tough.
Mother.
His mother.
his mother dying. So those are going to be rescheduled. So what I'd like to do is, so one of us each, and Jen, I think we'll come back and we're going to take advantage of Andrew, Sebastian, and I being here, being 3 meetings that we need to attend. We'll take these for right now, and then we'll revisit those in the future with yourself. So in any
I
case,
really appreciate it.
yes. There's capital buy board rate review.
So capital, only just so you have some sense of what the commitment is, that's tomorrow, and then I think they'll do one more meeting in January, and then basically they'll forward their recommendations to the select board for the
Okay.
budget.
Okay.
The buy board is a joint meeting between a representative from the finance committee and the select board, and we have our finance team on the committee, and that's basically where we talk about a lot of budget decisions, and you know that'll be made at the buy board level. So we'll have a member of your committee, and that's where we talk about, you know, say we have from 1.5 million in free cash, where are we going to allocate that for the following year? So That typically meets the second Tuesday of the month at 2:00 on Zoom. And we're authorized to do Zoom through the end of March through the state open meeting law. They'll probably extend it, but they don't tell us till probably like 2 days before they do
Yeah.
it. So
I mean, if it's on Zoom, that's easy too.
Yeah, I could probably make that one, depending on, do we have a date? I can probably make that one.
yeah, I'm looking right.
Okay.
Oh, I have a calendar.
I think it's the second Tuesday of
So that would be yesterday. That would have been yesterday.
right.
That's going to yesterday's is going to be rescheduled.
So we're gonna reschedule after the first of the year for buy board. So it's probably looking like it will be
That
the
would have been
10th.
Yeah,
10th at 2 on Zoom.
2
I-
p.m.
Yeah.
Look at these people in there.
I have that open. If you guys can't make it, I could sign up for that one.
Okay.
And then
And then that would be ongoing.
If you want, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great. Great.
and what's the third one? Rate review.
So let me put that on my calendar. 2 p.m. you said?
Okay.
Yep, on the 10th of February.
And I get it the link through just like an email.
Yep,
to
we'll
my-
email you everything before. Also, it's always on the website, all the info.
Alright.
And so the rate review committee,
There's January.
yeah, January 10th. The rate review committee is definitely a compressed committee as well. They meet in the fall to get ready for the transfer station rate discussion. And then we're gonna be meeting next Tuesday, so a week from yesterday at 4 in this room,
It's the
to
20th.
start talking about water and sewer rates. And Select Board Livingston is the chair of that committee, Select Board member
And will that
Livingston.
be going on into January and February also?
Yeah, that should be wrapped up by February,
Okay.
because we need to have the rates included in the budgets for the enterprise funds.
And that's 1 week from yesterday?
Yep.
What time?
4, in person here.
Okay. I can probably manage that.
You're a champion.
And I don't know that they have a regular meeting schedule yet, but they'll certainly discuss it next week. As far as, they typically like to meet Tuesdays at 4. Not every week, probably every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, but they'll discuss that next week for sure.
So Andrew, I'm hearing that you would be able to work with
Manage
that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so then, just to sort of summarize, then, for the buy board, then Sebastian would be our representative.
Yes, sir.
For the rate review, Andrew will be our representative. I'll continue with the capital tomorrow and into January. And I will throw out that I am available to fill in as needed for any of these,
Nice.
working from home and living pretty close. I can usually.
And we all look pretty close. Right?
Yeah, we-
Here's not
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Good
And
stuff.
then, and then I just think, just again for ourselves, I think we should also. I'm going to try to make select. Are we select? Are we
We are select
men?
board, select board.
I don't know.
That was made about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. They
You also do
changed
Zoom
from,
still though, right?
we do.
Yeah.
We do
Yeah.
both. It's in person with the Zoom hybrid. We
Hybrid.
unfortunately can't do that for every meeting because it requires our IT person and APAC to be here at all the same time, which, especially during the day, we just don't have the staffing. So select board is the only group for the most part that does a hybrid.
But I'm just saying is that we don't need to have a FinCom representative. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm just throwing out for the FinCom members that we should,
Yeah.
as we are able to attend the select meetings.
Yeah, and Robert, gives an update, and it always includes a budget update at every select board meeting. So, those are
Okay.
helpful as well.
So then, moving on, I think the last item on the agenda was scheduling our FinCom committee, next meeting. And I had to sort of, again, going from Carly's presentation and this calendar here was maybe looking at Wednesday, November,
January.
Wednesday, maybe if I hold it up right, Wednesday, January 11th at 5:30 p.m.
So before they draft up the first.
Right, I thought, yeah, which is, yeah, Friday is the 13th. I just thought it would be, my thought would be that,
Go over the old budget.
So,
right, and then just sort of get, I think the agenda, the item would be mainly just getting, talking about what, what we've learned and,
You get ready for the future.
yes.
Okay.
So I just want to throw out, I know that day we have a Devon's Framework Committee meeting in this room, and it's at 3, and that will go at
Okay.
least 2 hours plus.
Um,
And the Historic Commission was looking to meet. You can always meet in the Great Hall. We don't like it because APAC can't film it. It doesn't have to be filmed, but it's better for the public if the meetings are filmed.
That's upstairs.
Yeah, and the acoustics are terrible. So you can yell over the heating system.
Well, I just threw out Wednesday,
Yeah.
1/11. I mean, does Tuesday the 10th
So
Sure.
or?
Tuesdays, I'm gonna just
And I have
caution you on Tuesdays because every week it's either planning board or select
Oh, okay,
board.
so Wednesday
Well,
actually,
plus
so
there's other
actually
things.
Wednesday
Yeah.
is a good starting point.
Wednesday or Thursdays are typically better. That week, January 12th, which is a Thursday, the Conservation Commission meets here, but not till 7. So if you wanted to meet here at 5 or 5:30, you could have an hour.
Thursdays are tough for me, but yeah, 5:30.
Okay.
I could make it if you guys.
We just need a half hour in between meetings to switch the room around. So if you did 5:30 to 6:30, then Conservation could meet here at 7.
I have a non-important question.
Sure.
Do we have name tags?
That's on my list tomorrow.
Nice.
Okay,
And
so,
it's gonna
So,
take
yeah,
me a
what are
while
we-
to get Kurt's
What
last
are you
name.
thinking that the 12th?
Seriously.
so yeah, then Andrew, the 12th,
That
Thursday at 5:30 to 6:30?
That works for me.
all right.
And then a week out from there, basically, you'll be getting the first draft of the budget, right? Is that correct?
That same Friday, the day after, I think.
Oh, actually, Friday the 30th.
Oh, that's
Friday.
right, the
Yeah,
13th.
Friday.
Yep.
Oh, that makes sense to do.
Ooh,
Right,
Friday
I
the
can,
13th.
I can look through this stuff beforehand, as I'm sure we all can. Write some notes.
Oh, yes.
Have an hour to discuss, and then see what changed in the new one, or what
That's-
we would like to address in the new one, or address the public concerns.
I like that.
Okay, so I think we've hit everything on the agenda. Jen? Yes?
Okay, Kurt, and Andrew and Sebastian, just how are we going to respond to the first 3 speakers, the general public about concerns? So are we going to sort of like set up meetings with the separate departments, like the fire department, or like to
Would that be after?
is that
the
something
draft?
that we need to think about too?
I mean, I assumed that would be after we got the budget, but I guess it doesn't have to be.
I think it would be more meaningful discussion if you at least had the proposed numbers for the budget. But certainly you can call them here whenever you need to.
Jen, I think what I was sort of thinking is in this January 12th meeting this is where we could say, okay, we're going to have to get ready to meet with various
Office
Department heads.
yeah.
and also how do we address, as you're saying, Jen, concerns that have been presented to the committee, and how do we start looking at those and working them into our process?
Sounds good, yeah.
Good. No, this is good.
That's good.
stuff.
And then just procedurally too, if you don't mind, on the minutes, what we do.
Mhm.
So the minutes, typically, we aim to have the minutes done for the next meeting.
So you can approve them.
Yeah, so the board can approve them. Someone's got to sign them on the committee, either the clerk or the chair. Just someone. So we'll make sure you bring a printed set. If you email it to me, I can print whatever you need. And then the board approves them, someone signs them, then we get them to the town clerk, and as soon as they're scanned, they go on the website. Oh, and let me just, while we're here, sorry, I want to make the most of this time.
No, again, appreciate it.
So if you're looking for old agendas or what the past finance committees have done, if you go to minutes and agendas and you just scroll down to it's alphabetical. So finance committee, agendas, see we have a little holes in the minutes here. That was from the previous board, but then they always link the video and audio once it's available. And then it's a good, if you guys want to go through iBoard and rate review, everything is here. So we, the select.
I was going to try to go to some of the FinCom meeting minutes from
Yeah.
previous years. Just
Select board goes back to 1990 on the website, so in case you can't sleep one night, please visit that page.
you can read this to, you can read this to your baby.
Yeah, put him to sleep, that's right.
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Have a great night, thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yes.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
So
Second? All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Jen?
Yes,